For some people, it's very difficult because it is much easier to not take responsibility for something than it is to. And within that, you're looking at past lifetimes as well, where the victim mentality comes into play. So I think there's so much that people that become very resistant to it and they say, oh, the universe is testing me or is against me. Look at what the universe is doing to me. I think that's exactly what they're here to heal and work through because it's the thing that they're actually polarizing from. Right.
Welcome back to the Sacred Soul podcast. I'm super excited for today's episode. I have Derek. Derek, thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thank you. I'm so excited to sit and share space with you and quantum space with you and talk about all the wonderful things.
Yes, absolutely. I love to ask my guest a deep philosophical question. Feel free to answer it in any way you see fit, whatever comes to you first. Who are you and who are you not?
I am a creator in many ways, whether it's creating using energy and then bringing it into physical or creating from physical and awakening the energetics back and forth. But I am a creator who channels both non-physical to physical and physical to non-physical so that it can blend the two together. And then who I am not anymore is the person who didn't believe in themselves and didn't trust themselves. Because I think that in order to know who we are not, we have to experience that person. We have to actually move through that experience to really understand the person that we are not. And I also believe that continues to keep evolving. So we're always uncovering from moment to moment layers of who we are as well as who we are not.
Yeah, it's it's ever changing as it's supposed to. And when we have this awareness, it's just like we're like, oh yeah, of course I'm a new person today. Of course.
Yep, that's what it feels like every day. And that's why we can't attach to any part of ourselves that we thought we were because it's a constant evolution. And then that's where I think things get tripped up or we have stagnancies is because we keep attaching to that thing that we think we are. But the thing we think we are is literally evolving from moment to moment with every bit of information that comes in. So,
Yeah, absolutely. And do you have an example of the time that you were actually moving through the first thing that you said that who you are not anymore, when you didn't believe in yourself?
I think because of my history of coming from entertainment. So I was in entertainment since I was 15. It was my first job in public eye and being around people. And it was very uncomfortable for me because I didn't like myself, just being bullied and made fun of for so long. And so there came a point where I had built the identity around being in front of people and what we think that means. Meaning if you see yourself as a product or you see yourself as this thing that people need to invest in or buy or purchase, you become that thing. And you've created that thing because of your thought process of what it is. So whether or not that was in physical fitness or I was performing on stages in Los Angeles or I was able to go on tour, like a bunch of different levels of things like that. I created myself to be this product, this idea of who I think I was. And then comes a point where you get the wake up call. That's your next level Kundalini activation. That's like, no, no, and then you have to be faced with those parts that you think you are. And it's revealed, so there's no escaping it. And that process, the big process for me with that, where I had to actually make the choice to step into this authenticity, was around 2017, I think. And I was very physically fitness focused. Like I was teaching classes, I was doing a lot of shows, I was mixing music and fitness together for like Propel Labs Fitness Music Festival, and I was teaching classes there. So I built myself around what people think of me as a physical person or just musically. And I had to be faced with that version and go deeper. I had to like strip that away to the point of like I couldn't even eat the same things anymore because once that awakening happened, my vibration went into a whole nother level that I physically was getting sick from the same foods that I was eating the day before.
Mm.
And so when you go through that process, you're forced to see the person that you are no longer. And there's no choice because your body is physically reacting to whoever that has become.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
And,
wild.
and did you resist it or?
I resisted at first because I think we all have a point of resistance because of the unknown, right? And that's
Mhm.
usually when people throw up a fight about something, it's usually resistance to the unknown space that's on the other side of it because it's so scary. And I had to do a lot of different levels with it, with that. And so what I had built my body for and what it looked like, I was not eating the same. I had to almost like not deteriorate, but I had to shrink it down and remove all of the density that I had acquired that the weight was associated with. And it was muscle and it was fitness, but it was associated with an ego identity. So the vibration of it was not in alignment with who I had become. So you could see just by that statement all the different layers of how difficult it can be to go through a transformative process. That, and again, I was known for performing for clubs. I've opened up for big famous artists for music. People saw me as one thing. So not only people seeing you as one thing, oh, he's in fitness and he's a performer and an entertainer, a pop artist or whatever. Now you have all those eyes that are watching you go step into your spiritual authenticity. And so that's a whole nother challenge and a resistance because you're like, okay, great. Now more people are going to judge me. So you could see all the levels of resistance with it.
Yeah, yeah. It's almost like that's our rite of passage. That's how I define it for myself lately.
That's exactly what it feels like. And the rite of passage is like you yourself on a higher level giving that to you as a gift.
Right.
And that's the funny part of it all. It's like, and that's where we have so much fun taking responsibility for it is we go, oh, that's me giving that to me. And that the universe isn't doing anything to me because I am the universe. So it's me doing it for me. And for me is for everyone.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. And I want to dive into that contrary belief that we're alluding to right now, where people are like, oh my God, God is testing me, or the universe is just testing me and putting me through all this crap. What's your insight on that?
I literally heard that from someone very close today, actually, who said that same exact thing. They did say it in a little bit different, in a little bit of a lighter way today, so I see the transformation happening. But for some people, it's very difficult because it is much easier to not take responsibility for something than it is to. It's much easier to go, oh, look at this physical thing that happened. That's why my life is like this. And so it's just an easier way to break through that limitation that we put ourselves through. And I honestly think that comes from ancestral line. So it's not even in the person who's just doing it now. It's because it is in the DNA structure of those who came before them. And within that, you're looking at past lifetimes as well, where the victim mentality comes into play. So I think there's so much that people that become very resistant to it and they say, oh, the universe is testing me or is against me. Look at what the universe is doing to me. I think that's exactly what they're here to heal and work through because it's the thing that they're actually polarizing from, right? So
Yeah.
I love seeing it because I'm like, ooh, but if they speak about
I have something amazing that is unfolding for the whole month of December in preparation for 2025. And that is my brand new container, Astro Aligned Business Bootcamp. It's a business boot camp with one-on-one support, community support, and a full online self-paced course, all bundled together in one monthly membership. Again, I am launching this for the first time ever. in December 2024. In preparation, it's going to be happening all year long for 2025. And you can join now. You can get early bird pricing and you can lock in early bird pricing for your first 3 months of membership. Super, super exciting. Now, here's what it is. It will help you revolutionize your business with high-level astrology and human design strategies. Yes, operating your business in accordance to what is going to work best for your energy, your energetic blueprint. We can get instructions, specific instructions on your highest probabilities for your business. So if you are really ready to rebrand your business, re-strategize, set a strong foundation going forward, or maybe you are just starting out your business, this will be absolutely necessary and helpful, and it will help you accelerate with ease and grace. Check out the link again for the month of December. You get the early bird pricing of $318 a month, and you lock it in. You lock it in for the first 3 months. I'm super excited. You'll get one-on-one strategy calls, and there's a group container, a group call every month alongside the online course material. I'll see you in the Astro Aligned Bootcamp.
A little bit differently each time. The transformation is happening regardless if they see it or not.
Yeah, that's a powerful way to put it. I love that. And I love the connection that you're making with our ancestral line and past lives and how that plays into that victim state consciousness in this life. So thank you for that. I want to chat a little bit. We're going to talk more about past lives soon, but I want to chat a little bit about how did you discover your spiritual abilities?
When I was a kid, okay, so I didn't know that when I was a kid that I used to speak to spirits or people that weren't there until like in the late, almost close to 2020 is when I was talking to my parents and my mom was like, actually, we didn't tell you, but you would speak to people who weren't there and we thought you would need to go to a doctor. We never took you to one, but we thought that there was something wrong and that you had to do that. So this happened like super early. But what happens is when we have fear experiences, when we watch movies or we get the fear vibration about whatever's the unknown on that side, we shut that whole capability down because fear is the thing that locks us in that cage. And the fear pain barrier is what we can't, if we can't get through that, we can't actually have those stronger connections because our fear is keeping us in a vibration that can't receive it. So I developed fear early on as a little boy because of, I'll say it, Nightmare on Elm Street. Freddy Krueger was the one that literally with how my fears and how the spirits would manifest because they knew that was the fear that I
Mhm.
had. And so when growing up, having that fear and then also being bullied, so now you're in an even lower vibration. Spirits in contact that would happen would be very negative because I was already in a low place. So I was attracting that as well. So I was still performing because I started when I was 15. And when I was performing, I was asked to do tarot card readings and palm readings for a Halloween event. It's kind of like, how a plug-in goes into a theme park. And I was like, absolutely, I could use the money. My manager was going to teach us how to read tarot and do the archetypes. Well, it was so natural to me and so easy that my line for it would just be going down through the tent all the way down the thing because people wanted to get their tarot read. The issue was I was not responsible for it because I did not know how real it would be. It wasn't just reading cards. It was you're attracting all of the spirits that are associated with these people. And all of their stuff is coming along with it. And all of those people had negative stuff, fear. They come with fear. They want fear because they're at the Halloween event and they're asking fear-based questions. And those fear-based questions come with fear-based spirits. So then I was haunted after that, literally just nonstop. And I shut it down as a teenager because I did not want that. And yeah, it was difficult. So, but through the years, I still have that connection. I could get on a Ouija board. Spirits would talk through Ouija board. I had an innate ability to learn to send them away and, separate. But it was music that with my friend Kalina in Dallas, I was playing the piano for her and um, we've known each other since we were 18 years old, but she is a big EDM singer. And I was playing the piano for this Toyota thing, this event. And we went to a museum right afterwards before we went home. And when I was in the ancient Greek display, there was 4th century ancient Greek jewelry. And in that place, my body started to react. I couldn't breathe. My chest got really tight, and I had a reaction just by being around ancient Greek items. And it was in that moment, in that little space in the Dallas Museum, where the calling came in, and it was like, you need to do this. It's time. And then I got on that plane. I was like, I think it's time for me to get back into this. And then when I said that, when I said I was ready, that's when the floodgates opened up, and I have had wild experiences most every single day since then. So it's a process from a kid going through fear, reclaiming that power, standing in the knowing of it, and not letting fear be the driver's seat of my experience.
Yeah. Wow. Thank you for that. And I think that journey, it's almost like a hero's journey in its own version of it. But I think a lot of us intuitives and those of us who are expanding our consciousness go through that childhood experience where it's like everything's fine. We're like being our natural selves, being gifted. Parents get scared. I've had that too. My mom thought I was schizophrenic, and it ran in my family, so that didn't help, right? So, and then we disconnect because we're like, oh, that's not safe. And then like you said, reclaiming your power. I had to find my way back as well to where I would even own it. And even when I started to like be open to owning it, there was still that, I call it the witch wound. Like I was in the spiritual closet for so long.
The fact that you just said that, I'll tell you after, but keep going.
Oh, okay. I could probably wrap it up there, but that was my point. It's just like, yeah, like I was just kind of recapping the journey that you and I seem to have some overlap. And I think a lot of intuitives, I think of so many of my clients too that have had similar stories.
The fact that you just said that. So I'm writing a new song right now because I'm doing these fairs this next month. Like I'm being one of the featured artists to perform music for these county fairs, but it's like a plugin. And I was like, I need a new song. So I started writing this new song, and the words that have been coming out were about this transformative experience of going through deep shadow self. And but even though everything is shadow and dark, you keep moving, and there's this line of fire that goes through you. So even though everything's dark, there's still an inner fire that's burning. And this fire, so this whole concept of burning and fire is coming up. So I wrote this whole thing yesterday. I wrote the lyrics, I wrote everything. And then I go to do a meditation, and this one meditation has been sitting with me with this one guy who I like to follow on YouTube. And his name is Steve Noble. I don't know if you've ever done a meditation.
Yep.
So he just like released a witch wound, Isis, goddess Isis, and it just kept popping up. And I was just like, okay, I'm gonna do this today before I go to this writing session. So I go to do it, and right before I do it, I have this really strong feeling that was very uncomfortable. And I was just like, oh, I was just going to do this just because it's there, and experience. And I realized in the moment of my discomfort that there was something I have not been acknowledging about myself with that. I go through the experience, and I will tell you what experience, it almost shook me where I laid there afterwards, like unpacking it, because there was two women dancing in the living room right against the door. There was these particles of light that came over. There was something that crawled over the couch and sat on me. A lot came forward yesterday that have been like, I'm still unpacking it. And then
Oh,
some
this was
stuff
just
last night.
yesterday?
Yes, yesterday, and then last night I had an experience as well. And and so I'm sitting, I'm like, there's something with this witch wound that I have got to, this is my next level. So the fact that you just said the exact words, I was like, oh God, I get
Yep.
it.
Well, and it was like perfect timing for us to like talk about it. So now I'm gonna do that same one because I already do all of his stuff. I like his moon detach one. I don't know if you've dived
I
into
haven't
some
done
of
that
these
one.
moon theories that just resonate with me on some level. But yeah, I'm gonna do the witch moon one because that's been a part of my journey consistently.
And Goddess Isis, you'll feel like you every time I do those, I feel the energy and I go through an experience every single time. And
Mm,
so I yesterday, I mean, I could feel the presence of the Isis frequency. And when I went through the experience, it was almost like you needed that because what I was experiencing was I had to just move through and be strong in myself through it. And sometimes the experiences are like that, you know.
yeah, yeah. Wow, powerful. And I had chills, by the way, when you were describing that. So,
You have to tell me about your experience.
yeah, yeah, for sure, for sure. So now I want to start talking a little bit more about past life regressions. Surprisingly, I haven't done an official one. I've fell into them, during breathwork sessions or just like while I was doing some other type of healing or meditation. When I do my 1 hour, I pretty much find myself in some type of regression sometimes. But I'm curious to know more about maybe your first time doing a past life regression. And you are a QHTT practitioner.
Yeah.
So, was your first experience way before you became a practitioner or kind of leading up to that? What was that like?
You know what I think? I think we have experiences that aren't just meditation or dream experiences that tell us our past lives or know our connections. And I think that happens throughout life. And I think it's those things that we feel most drawn to, most connected to, an emotional attachment that occurs with something, a time period, a movie that like you just, like my brother, it's World War II films when he was a kid. He just and I'm like, that's a little obvious to me about that. But I think that we have these past life connections that are with us our entire lives. It just depends if we're able to access that level of our inner awareness. So that said, I lived in San Jose, which is Northern California, the home of the Rosicrucian Order of the world. It's the headquarters of Rosicrucianism, which is where the Egyptian Museum is. So there's a whole park dedicated to ancient Egypt, and Egypt and Cairo gave permission for this to be the headquarters. But this is ancient esoteric teachings that have spanned lifetimes. So they teach you all about the universe, mysticism. It's beautiful, it's powerful, it doesn't take anybody's power, it gives you power. And I grew up there. So I would go to the Rosicrucian Order Museum all the time because it's where I felt comfortable. We also had a Fry's Electronics, which was Egyptian themed down the street. So everything, that's the Silicon Valley. So you're looking at also the tech and you're looking at, that's interesting that all this ancient energy and like these frequencies are also paired with the place that all of the high tech AI stuff is coming out of. Very interesting correlation there. And so I got connected with past lives when I was a little boy because of that. Like I just knew. I just had it in me. This was before visions. This was just pure feeling. I would dress up my room in ancient Egypt and do Egypt things just because I felt more comfortable like that. So you can see I have that connection really early on. When it comes to actually seeing a vision and having like a past life, experience, I would say the first time I actually got the full experience was I did a meditation in Los Angeles at a space in Hollywood, Liberate. They offered meditations there right in Hollywood. It was an old recording studio, so it's got a lot of energy there. And I went and did this meditation, and it was an Akashic Records meditation. A bunch of people were in the room. I didn't expect anything because I don't know. I had no idea what to expect, which is how you can have the best experience. So I go in, and immediately I see me as a beautiful Egyptian woman with really delicate fingers, beautiful linens just draping my body, the see-through, the whole thing that you see, but it was real now. It wasn't hieroglyphs, it wasn't a depiction. It was like I was looking down and I could see how gorgeous I was. And then I saw myself at the temples at the Nile River for a baby blessing. I was with the Pharaoh and the Queen. And then I saw myself it said, see where you live. So I went to where the house is that I lived at, and it was a shack, like a small, I was like, what happened to the palace? What are we talking? This isn't my house. I was at a palace. It was beautiful. And I realized that I was a seer for the royals in that lifetime. So I was one of the psychics, the intuitives that would work with the royal people who are now actually my friends in this lifetime. So it's funny how when you stand in your power, you find those people. And but I had to get that validated because I was like, why was I living in a shack? And my grandfather in the vision, the only other person, it was my grandmother in this lifetime. So it was really cool to see. I went to Egypt. I was at this particular, the Zoser pyramid, and my guide kept saying things like energy and the energy. And I was like, I think this girl's like, she's like knows. So I said, hey, where did the seers live that were the seers for the royals? She goes, oh, they lived in like a small little house, like a not very nice, right next, it was next to where the royals would live. And I was like, that's exactly what, and she explained, I was like, that's what I saw. So without giving any kind, you know what I mean? So you get these validations. So that's when I learned seeing that. And that was my first time having past life visions was at a meditation I just decided to go to.
Beautiful. Wow.
Now
Wow.
it's game on. Now we can see things all the time.
Right, right. Super soul. Have you ever thought about how expansive your life purpose actually is? Have you ever just thought about it? Well, here's the thing. Most people just think of their life purpose as being one thing, and that's never really the case. Or most people just think of it as like this vague, mysterious, general idea, or just like one word, right? And that's a great start, but there's so much more in store for you to really master the details of your life purpose. And when we have a framework and when we have the answers and almost like this instruction manual that comes from your astrology and your human design charts, we get concrete ideas and concepts that you can execute with strategy, confidence, and clarity. So, check out my Purpose Report program. It is a one-on-one container, and also starting in 2025, it will be one-on-one support plus group support. Now, this is different from the Astro Aligned Business Bootcamp. You don't need to have a business to join the Purpose Report program. This is really about your life purpose. And so I encourage you to check out the link, take the quiz on the website, see where you're at, and just start taking those first small baby steps towards, again, not just discovering your life purpose. This is not just about discovering your life purpose. I really don't like that term because it doesn't really give us anything. What does that mean? Discover our life purpose. We need to master the details. The diamond is in the details. The rewards are in the details. The momentum is in the details. The success is in the details. So, go to the link for the Purpose Report program, check it out, take the quiz. There's a soul purpose alignment quiz. That is step one. Take the soul purpose alignment quiz, and that will lead you to the next steps. But just take that one small baby step, and I will see you on the other side. Have a fantastic day. Back to the show. And so, for those who may not know, what is a past life regression? You just described your experience with the vision. Yeah, but what's the maybe the more formal experience of a regression?
Past life meditations and past life regressions are going to be different. A regression to me is much deeper. Well, the quantum healing hypnosis version is a long session, and there's a reason for that. So other methods are not going to be as deep like that, and the meditation's definitely not going to be as deep as that. But the reason why I like the quantum healing is that there's a level of trust that develops between you and the person at the beginning, and you go through and you learn about their life story. After the life story, you go through a list of questions that they have for why they're having a past life regression. Those reasons can be anything from they want to heal something that's going on physically, they want to heal something that's mental, emotional, they want to understand themselves. Some people are just curious, some people want to have fun, some people want to activate new levels and abilities within them. There's so many reasons why people want to do it, and I think that's amazing as long as people don't have an expectation to the outcome. So then when we go into it, I try to take people through about 3 lifetimes at least, unless the higher self and the oversoul energies want to show you just one thing or two things.
Mm,
I still try to go, okay, let's get information from multiple lifetimes, because the more information you have, the more it will help you see yourself and trust yourself. And that's my biggest goal in life, is doing past life regressions or doing spiritual development work with people, is so that people can literally trust themselves. And the more information you have about yourself, the more you're going to trust who you are and what you're here to do. So they get to see multiple lives. We unpack it. There is physical healing energy that comes in at that time for people, because it is a longer session. It's not like you're just going a nice light layer. We're going in a deep level that allows you to be open, trusting, and let the energies through your agreements come through and work on you on deep cellular levels. So
mm.
unpack it after. Some people come back for more. Some people, that's it. It will last a lifetime. So layers will open up as your consciousness grows and you have more experience. So it just depends on person to person.
Yeah, thank you. And you answered so many of my questions in one journey, which is so good, which is so good. I love that. And so now I have some questions that are popping up more around like specifics, like have you had someone who was able to really find some resolution with like depression or suicidal thoughts through doing past life healing and past life regressions?
Multiple people have, on different levels, have come to that conclusion. The one that's coming to mind right now, there is this model, and he very starseed, very cosmic, but he could not understand the pain of the world. And he couldn't understand why he found himself in negative situations in Los Angeles, where he got to witness the dark side of Hollywood and was in it, like part of it.
Hmm.
And so one day, it was like right at the end of a year, so it was like a December, and he was like talking to me, talking about how much trouble he had, and he really didn't want to be here anymore. And I was like, this guy really wants this, and it sounds like he just needs to see deeper. And so right in like January, I was like, no, we're gonna do this. I went to his home and we did it there, and he got to see exactly why he feels so disconnected from this world and what was happening. And he got to see that even his roles in the places that were very challenging, like in the dark Hollywood stuff, played a part for him to fulfill a purpose for him. So he could see
Wow.
his purpose of being in it. And also his purpose of receiving a specific disease that is stuck with him. And he got to see, like, he literally, you would have loved this. He was laying there and he was explaining being in this room with all of these beings that were ready to come into Earth. So this is one of those stories where you get to hear about the groups of souls who come into the earth plane to do the energetic transformations. And he was explaining it all. He goes, and he talked like a little boy. And he was like, there's so many people, just this innocent frequency, right? And he's like, there's so many different people. There's one that looks like this. There's one that looks like this. And he explained, he goes, there's somebody in front of all of us telling us what it's going to be like. And I said, well, how do you feel about that? And he's like, I feel so like excited, but so scared, more than I've ever been. And he like explains this whole thing, and then he gets to see exactly what his decisions were for coming into this and having the experience. And he came out of it. Now he's like in his spiritual power. He's making like these like stuffed animals for kids that are crystal infused. He's got these jewelries. He's moved to a certain place that fulfills his soul. And he went from being completely in a dark, really dark place to being fully in his power and expressing it to the world. So that's one example of many people that have gone from a dark place to standing in their power through seeing their soul history.
Wow, that is powerful. And it's just like this is medicine that was missing for so long from, well, is missing from mainstream, uh, I don't know, medicine modalities, support systems. And it's just like, yeah, like we are bringing this in as just like alternative options that I think get to the root cause. Would you say?
Yeah, and that's why quantum healing, getting into the most basic, like fundamental particles, where this energy exists, and changing it on those quantum levels is what changes it across the universe. If everything's on the surface here and you're changing the quantum levels deeper, deeper, deeper underneath, you're changing the energetic structure underneath the physical. So everything under here is going to physically change everything up here. But if we stay
Mhm.
focused on the surface levels of reality, then we are not actually getting into the space, those roots where they're dug in. And we have to go into those places and water that root in order for all the physical stuff to change, which is what I see you doing, is what I see certain artists doing. People are here doing it and making that energetic transformation begin to take place, which is why all the kids that are coming in that have the higher frequencies and are already standing in their power get the free highways to just we've opened up these spaces so that they can be able to just make the transformation.
Yeah, yeah, so powerful. What are your thoughts on the new earth concept and or new paradigm?
I think our well, I think that old paradigms are shifting out every day. And that comes from people standing in their own authenticity, because the authenticity is truth. And then the truth and standing in the truth allows you to see things that are not in alignment anymore. But we still have people in those positions that control things. But those people ain't gonna live forever. That's the process. But those old paradigms also serve a purpose. So we can't look at everything that's happened in a negative light. We just have to evolve with them.
Hmm,
It's just that people from old paradigms hold on to those old paradigms because that's all that they know. Again, going back to resistance of change and the unknown. It just comes right back to that. But it's all changing. And remember that we aren't here to change anybody. We're here to stand in the light of our truth, which is the change itself. So if we stand in that, everything changes around us naturally. We don't have to do anything. All we have to do is honor ourselves and stand in that. And literally everything around you changes without even having to force anything. So when people are like, oh, my parents won't change, or these people won't ever do, I'm like, oh, but now you put them in a box and you'll never see that they are.
yeah,
Because they are changing as you change, because you are them. So as you change your cellular structure, your energetic makeup, everything physical and non-physical, they are receiving the same change to the level that their evolution is supposed to receive. They are changing, but if you don't witness it and you don't choose to see where they are, your
yeah,
perspective is limited, and who's the one that's not evolving now?
right. And then there's the energy of expectation, which from my understanding is like a whole other entanglement energetically that's not helpful for expansion. It's more contracting, right?
Well, you put expectation out, you're creating timeline splits. So that timeline
Mm,
split, so if you have an expectation and that's not really what's even going to come out, you created a reality. Every choice and every thought creates a new reality. That's what Spirit just showed me on Saturday night. I went to a show and they were showing me how the multiverse works. And they showed me in the form of what, it was so cool. They showed me in the form of one drop of water just hitting. And then as soon as the drop of water hit, it split off and like an infinite number of drops formed from one drop.
right,
So it came down, went like this, and the moment it hit it, went, and then all of these ripples came out of each drop that just dropped. So it was showing us that one thought, one action that ripples out, but creates all these other worlds that exist, and they all affect each other. So if we have expectation on something, remember we're creating new worlds. What kind of worlds do we want to create? If we don't have the expectation, besides, it depends on where you place your expectation. It's about expectation to outcome and attaching to that outcome that becomes the issue.
right.
You know, if you have an expectation that you are like you're going to continue being the greatest person that you've ever been, and that's going to continue evolving, that's a great expectation. You know what
Hmm.
I mean?
And
That's
it's
like,
probably more like an intention, would you say?
yep, uh-huh, yep. because it's not an attachment to an outcome. And that's attachment to outcome and is one of the like most ancient spiritual teachings that comes from, the Vedic teachings from ancient India. These are old teachings. So these all of this wisdom is not new. It's just researching because we are here to reawaken it.
Yeah. Oh, so amazing. Thank you for that perspective. So good. Is there anything else you want to mention as we start to wrap up? Any other awarenesses that you feel like are important for the collective to embrace and recognize at this time in our evolution?
I think this goes back to what you asked me in the beginning, and it goes to like polarization energy and looking at an experience as something separate from us. If we are all moving towards reintegration into one wholeness, and we're all coming back together, we're dissolving the lines of separation, tapping into love. The thing we need to do is witness everything outside of us as part of us, as a reflection of us. People are still separating themselves from their neighbor, and your neighbor is a reflection of you. So even if it's something you don't like, it's not wise to polarize from it. It's wise to pull the information that is best suitable, that pertains to you, through the information. So if I polarize from a neighbor who I find is, challenging, well, we're all here together. What is she teaching me? What is it that I'm learning about myself? Am I standing in my power? Am I giving away my power? It's all a reflection of self. So even somebody that's challenging is reflecting your power back to you. And even
Mm.
if people are judging you, they're only judging their inability to access the level of power that you've attained. So what they're really doing is they're witnessing your power. But people want to see someone judging them as a negative judgment thing. They're not seeing the other side of it. The thing that they're judging
Ah,
is that you have attained a level of power and they're witnessing it, and it triggers the fact that they haven't.
right. I love that. Oh my gosh. That
So
is
that
such
it,
a perspective.
that will help people, look at, we can't look at one side of the coin or else you can't spend the money. You need to look at both sides and appreciate the whole coin. And then you'll see the whole thing is powerful and you can spend that cash.
Yeah, absolutely. And then Shaman Durek said something not too long ago that really resonated. He said, when people are projecting onto you, it's like you have the power to accept it or to reject it. And
Yep.
I feel like what you said also is kind of like those are related there.
Everything is agreements. We either say yes or we say no. And the more that you just move through the fear of the saying of the no, the more that you take every opportunity when the fear arises or the resistance arises, you feel it and you do it anyway to see what happens. You feel the
Yeah.
fear. And I learned that like long ago, somebody gave me a pin and I moved to Texas just so I could be alone and shut down and go through a transformative process for like a year. And the day I left, this girl who is a fitness competitor, she gave me this gift, and on it said, "Feel the fear and do it anyway." And it's the simplest little phrase, and yet it is the one thing that has stuck with me for years. That was back in 2007. And so I still use that because it is so basic, and the most fundamental things are typically the most powerful.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. In fact, cold plunging like really taught me that concept. And one of my Wim Hof instructors would be like, you can be fearful and still like breathe through this. And I was like, you're right. And so that also stuck with me from 2020. And I
That
used
is
that.
a great phrase. You can
Mhm.
still be fearful and breathe through this. That's something good for me to remember. And that's what would get me through spiritual fearful experiences is breathing through it. But like that one, thank you. I'm gonna put that in my back pocket so I remember. I hear your voice when I have an
Yeah.
entity come and I have to breathe through it.
Right. I know these are all codes and keys for each other. And I feel like we exchange so many. And I want to talk about the entities, but I feel like that deserves its own. I feel like that's like a whole nother 45-minute conversation that can happen.
Yeah, that's a whole nother level because there's a lot of them. And
Yeah.
they're on all kinds of levels and doing all kinds of things, and they all have their purpose too. Even the challenging ones that
Right.
people polarize from are reflecting stuff back to us that we need to see. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. And we're not going to go all the way into that conversation, but I do want to get your opinion on something. Hopefully this is a short thing, but like for me, I found myself starting to go down that path of working with entities. And then I felt like I had to pull back. I was like, you know what? Like, I get it. I know how to do it. I know how to, I'm not fearful of it. That's one thing I was clear on. I wanted to make sure I wasn't fearful of it, but it was just a whole nother animal. And I was like, I think it was just meant for me to experience it for a period of time. For you, have you gotten to the space where it doesn't take a lot out of you to deal with entities, like you've mastered your process?
I think that it changes. So new entities, new beings will come for the allotted time that I'm in. As a teacher and I feel like we have certain guides and energies that step in to work with us at certain times. So recently it was Osiris, and I didn't realize I was channeling Osiris until it's wild how that awareness came forward. But I was speaking for my group. I was leading a group, and all of a sudden I started speaking this really deep ancient vocalization, and somebody sent me some ancient Egyptian stuff. I was like, oh my God, that's what it sounds like. And we put it together that it was Osiris energy. Now, do I sit there connecting with Osiris every day and be like, we're gonna no, because I'm a human being, having a human experience. So it's about learning that moderation and learning that these beings and energies are working with us regardless. It's just the acknowledgement of it, and not feeling like we have to really separate ourselves from the human experience to connect with that, because that's not why we're here. We're here to live, and we're
Yes.
here to have the experience. When we can bridge the spiritual world with the physical world, that's where I think the magic is made. It's seeing that there's no separation, that those things are working with us. So like entities yesterday, like at the two women, they were reflecting. I'm still unpacking what that was,
Mhm.
but there's dark entities too that I've seen that get very constricting, and they're teaching me about certain things about myself where I project fear.
Yeah.
So it's very beneficial. Do I sit there working with dark entities or light entities or whatever all the time? No, but I love when I can connect with them. But it'll take me away from what I'm doing physically, and I'm ready for riches and abundance.
Right.
I'm ready to
Yeah.
receive my physical things. So it's all good. But I know that they are always helping me.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And I can relate to almost every word you said there. So thank you for that. I think I just needed to hear it reflected back to me.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I get that.
Yeah, beautiful. So how can people find you?
My website is wonderfullightbody.com. And then I'm at Instagram at Derek Jameson, DerekJameson. And those are some easy ways to connect, and email seems to be a good way to connect.
Yeah, and then I'm going to put your information in the description so you guys can just grab his links from over there. And thank you so much for your time, your energy, your insight. It was just so good to exchange keys and codes today.
Yeah, that's exactly what it feels like. It feels like activations for us both, and enlivening and magical. And it feels like we're two little fairy beings that just stepped into a tree and and just like
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
so thank you. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Namaste, everyone. Hey, Tribe, thank you so much for tuning in to today's podcast. I can't wait to share next week's podcast episode with you. Now, to stay up to date, go to the link for the Power and Podcast website. Sign up for the newsletter so you can actually get on our newsletter, and you'll get monthly emails about our podcast episodes ahead of time. So you'll get to see which episodes are planned out for the whole entire month, so that way you know when to tune in. So check out the Power in Podcast website. You could sign up for the newsletter to sign up for those updates, or maybe you just go to the website and check out all the episodes that are highlighted there. Thanks again. Have an amazing, inspiring day.